Good evening to everyone in the audience at Kappa and our audience who's tuned in online to tonight's conversation. Welcome to Pittsburgh Public Schools' first and soon-to-be annual State of the District event. My name is Joel Macklin, and I'm a sophomore at Pittsburgh Obama. I'm the co-executive editor of our school's newspaper, The Eagle, and as a part of the graduating class of 2015, I'm looking forward to taking advantage of the Pittsburgh Promise Scholarship Program. I've had a lot of opportunities as a Pittsburgh Public Schools student. Recently, I was given the opportunity to travel abroad to Nepal and Sri Lanka through Magee Women-Care International. I learned a lot about leadership and environmental stewardship along the way. Other students in the district are expanding their educational horizons as well. Last month, a group of Pittsburgh Public Schools students represented their city and their district by attending the One Young World International Youth Conference, which was held here in Pittsburgh about 3 weeks ago. Would those students please rise? We've all learned so much from our experiences, but the main thing that we've all been able to take away was the idea of hope. There was so much power in the ideas of the young people who we've met throughout our experiences. I believe that sense of hope is also something that we can take home tonight and share tonight. Since this week has been designated the American Education Week by the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, it's only fitting that we celebrate this week by having a conversation about the state of the district. First, let me introduce our guests of honor. I'd like to recognize the members of the Pittsburgh Public Schools Board who are here with us tonight. Board President, Ms. Sherry Hazuda. Please stand. First Vice President, Ms. Shireen Shealy. Second Vice President, Mr. Thomas Sumpter. Mr. Mark Brentley. Mr. Floyd McCrae. And Mr. William Eisler. And now, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Linda Lane, the Superintendent of Pittsburgh Public Schools. And not to forget, longtime favorite, KDKA TV on-air personality, Lynn Hayes Freeland. The agenda for the evening is located on page 3 in the pamphlets you received. It's also posted on the State of the District website for those of you viewing at home. This conversation will be followed by a question and answer section. For those of you here in the audience at Kappa, please write your questions on the note cards the ushers provided you when you walked in tonight. Hang on to those note cards until the ushers collect them prior to the question and answer session. And remember, anyone can tweet their questions by using hashtag PPSProgress online at twitter.com. And now, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Freeland and Dr. Lane.
Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. I am honored to be here. It is a privilege for me to be here. And Dr. Lane, thank you so much for the invitation to participate as tonight's moderator. We have much to do.
Thank you for being here.
We have much to accomplish, and certainly how could we even begin to dissect the state of the district without getting your overall assessment of the state of the district.
Yeah, we believe we're making progress. We have significant challenges we have to face. We have things around our budget. We have things regarding achievement of our children, but we are making progress, and we believe we can be successful.
So if we took each of those individual issues or challenges, if you will, and I know in an interview with me earlier today, you said that there are no problems without solutions, and they all, every challenge becomes a goal. Every goal becomes a challenge. Where do you even begin to address these concerns?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we have ahead of us, and is our goal, is to increase the achievement of children. And we know that we have the privilege of having the Pittsburgh Promise here in this city, so our children have a tremendous opportunity to be able to go to college or some kind of post-secondary training. And our goal as members of the district are to get them ready for that. And so that's primary. In addition to that, second goal is around closing our race-based academic disparities. We know for a fact that on average, African American students in our district do not do as well as other students. And so what are we going to do about that? How are we going to make sure that our African American students are also Promise ready? And then the last, of course, is kind of a two-part challenge, and that is district of choice. And we want to make sure that, one, we have the kind of school district and kind of schools particularly where parents want to send their children. And in addition to that, we know we have physical challenges and we have to be sustainable. And sometimes those two things can kind of work against each other. So we have to figure out solutions where they come together.
And that coming together point then would involve almost a buy-in level from every component, from the teachers in the district, from the parents, and from the students themselves to buy into the concept.
That's exactly right. And part of one of the reasons we're even here tonight is to reach out to our community. We want to both inform and engage our community in working our way toward reaching these goals that I've described.
Let's talk about satisfaction. How do we know? And judging satisfaction is a complicated area. But in actuality, when you look at all of the components to making this district work, there has to be a level of satisfaction on your end, on the community's end, on the parents' end, and the students' end.
That's right. And we are doing several things to get a better idea of the level of satisfaction around a number of things. For example, last spring we did a parent survey, and we had some of our Excellence for All parents, who are a group of parents that meet monthly that represent their schools, who worked really hard to develop survey questions and encourage their fellow parents to fill the survey out. They managed to double our response rate. It's still low. We still need a lot more parents to respond. But it gives us an idea how parents are feeling about the schools their children attend and the district overall. In addition to that, we also are, for the first time last year, used a survey we call Tripod, which is a survey of students. And it's asking students about their perception of their experience at school. And I know that when we first started talking about this, some of our teachers were a little concerned that this was going to be some kind of popularity contest, and it's not that at all. It asks questions of students, for example, students in this class respect the teacher. Do you agree or disagree with that? And so it gives us an idea of how students perceive what's going on in their classroom. Our teachers who got this information fairly recently, several of them have talked about how excited they were to go in and look and see what their results look like. One of our teachers was talking about how she changed some of the things she was doing in her classroom based on the input she'd gotten from her students. And so that's been pretty powerful to be able to do that. And then, of course, we also need to know how teachers feel about things. And the teachers have an opportunity to complete a survey as well about their school and the learning environment at their school, because one of our goals is to have a climate where kids can learn and teachers can teach. Our teachers are part of a group nationally that takes the survey, and the Pittsburgh public school teachers had better response rate than anybody in the country. And so we're really proud of that. And it's a good opportunity to see how teachers feel about the experience they're having as an educational professional in their school.
It's interesting because they often, it has been said that an attorney doesn't ask a question that they don't already know the answer to. In this case, when you look at these types of surveys, do you find yourself surprised at some of the things that come back?
Oh, yeah. You always are surprised about some of the things that come back, and that's the good thing about it. You learn things from it. And often you learn some things, but it just gives you more questions to ask. Like, why might people feel that way? What's going on that contributed to that? And so it gives you a level of information, but you still often have to go deeper to get the why part of it answered.
Now, you mentioned the achievement gap. And I know that that is an issue that a lot of parents have continued to be concerned about. And going forward, especially when we talk about the Pittsburgh Promise, and we talk about making this a district that parents want their children to come and participate in, that's got to be one of those issues that has to be tackled, and really, you got to grab onto it and not let go.
Right, right. It's been an issue in this district for a long time, and we are as concerned, if not more so, than parents are about this, because we know for a fact that children can do this. They're perfectly capable, total potential, and so how are we going to meet their needs in a way that that potential comes to the fore? So one of the things we've talked about in regard to this is the importance of having an effective teacher in front of every child every day. And our work empowering effective teachers has been going on now for a couple of years. We want that to be, that's one of our main ways of addressing this disparity in achievement, because we know that effective teaching results in more learning, and effective teachers get more growth from kids. So making sure all of our teachers are effective in every classroom is incredibly important. We also know that school leaders matter. Effective teachers are first in the school, but second impact is from the principal themselves. And principals' ability to help develop the skills of their teachers, help support a strong learning environment in school, and being able to reach out to parents and get parent support for the school, it makes a big difference for students as well. So those are some of the things we think are important. We're also looking for ways to engage some of the parents we haven't been able to reach very well. We have a parent group that's very active, very participatory, but then we have parents we don't see very often. And often, if we see them, it's not for a good reason. And we want to make sure that we build relationships with parents before there's a problem, because a lot of those problems can be averted if parents and teachers are working together. So how are we going to do a better job of reaching parents we haven't been totally successful in reaching? Example of that is we have teachers in our schools now who are being paid an additional amount of money to be in charge of parent engagement at the school. And we're going to do some training for those teachers to help prepare them in ways that they might be able to reach out to parents that we haven't been all that successful in reaching.
And I would imagine, I mean, we can, as we talk about this, that while it is wonderful to have this vision of where the district is going on a day-to-day basis in terms of the community, in terms of parents, in terms of our kids, their interaction is going to be with their teachers and with the principals in their schools. And so those in turn really become the motivators or enforcers of whatever this vision is going to be.
That's absolutely true. One of the things we know for sure, and I had an opportunity to get some feedback from our teachers other than from a survey, because we were beginning to craft our definition of effective teaching, and so we sent that out to some teachers and asked for some responses. So they wrote back to me about that. Several of them mentioned how important the relationships are with students, and we know for students who, especially students that may not have experienced academic success their whole school career, that having somebody that believes you can do it and reaches out and makes sure that they don't let you go. They don't let you not do your best. They don't let you get away with not doing your homework. Those kind of relationships, I care about you, but I'm gonna be tough on you too. I want to make sure you're living up to your potential. Several teachers pointed that out, and I think they're so right. And as we talk about this academic disparity, that is incredibly important, because for some children, all they really need is an adult to say to them, listen, I know you can do this, and I'm going to make sure that you do.
Now, while we talk about all this, the realities are the headlines in the newspapers and the lead stories on the newscasts are going to, or have recently consistently been, their budget cuts, the money's not there, the district is in trouble financially. Do you feel often that you're in a war zone in that regard, because you've got this vision, you've got these challenges, but at the same time, your hands are tied to a great extent in terms of how you make this all come together?
Well, that's true. That's a big challenge. There's no doubt about it. And that's why we feel we need to engage in a process with this community to have those conversations, because we have to solve both problems at the same time. We can't just get to a place where we've cut the budget and the math works, right? But we don't have the schools that are going to close those achievement gaps, or we don't have the schools that are going to be the kind of schools parents want to send children to. So the real difficult part of this is being able to solve these problems simultaneously. And that's why it's going to demand something more from us than we've done before, in terms of our thinking, in terms of our creativity, in terms of some models we may not have used before.
It's almost as if someone said to me recently, we use the expression all the time, think outside the box, that we have to start thinking like there is no box, because when it comes to then the kind of challenges you're talking about, in order to do all the things that you want for this district, that we as a community want for this district, it's going to take some out-of-the-box thinking to make it all work.
Yeah, we are definitely going to have to think differently. We want to engage our community, our board, and parents and non-parents alike around what are some ways that we can solve this problem. It may involve some priority setting. We may not be able to do every single thing. But so what is most important to us as a district, and what is most important for the city in terms of the preparation of our children? So it is going to be an exercise that we're going to have to engage in, because, as you say, we have a significant fiscal challenge ahead of us. And as I said before, I don't think that we sit around and kind of wait and hope it goes away on its own, because I don't think it will.
And so then are we talking about, in essence, almost reshaping the district for the future?
I believe that that's probably an accurate description. We are going to have to reshape ourselves. We're going to have to re-envision ourselves. And we want to come out of this better on the other end. And as I said, it's going to take some creativity, but I believe we're up to the task.
And have you had the type of community parent involvement that you'd like to see and that you're going to need going forward? Because what tends to happen is when you come out and say, well, we're going to change the curriculum at this program, we're going to close this school, whatever it is, more often than not, often that's when you hear from the community.
And that's true. That's true. But we have, I believe in this city, we have an incredible level of engagement from the community, from staff, and our parents. And so I think we're blessed in that way. Do we need more? Do we want more? Absolutely we do. We absolutely do, especially, as I said, some of the parents that maybe we haven't been able to reach before. And there are parents who don't engage with us on a regular basis. But nevertheless, we think that greater engagement is possible, but I have to say that I've seen, in the years since I've been in this city, been in this district, I've seen a greater level of community and parent engagement than I had ever experienced in my career.
And how then do you look at, for example, tonight, we're streaming this conversation live. We'll be taking questions from individuals watching at home. They can write in their questions on Twitter. And the realities are things like social media are all now permeating our lifestyle. That's got to impact as well the day-to-day operations in our schools.
Yeah, social media is a big difference, and I have to honestly admit, though, this will be my first Twitter experience tonight. I'm not a Twitter person. It's amazing to me people have that kind of time, but whatever. So, anyway, the fact of the matter is, I do believe that social media can be another way to reach people. Because they don't have to come down here. They don't have to have time to turn up at a board meeting or whatever. So it can be a good tool for us in terms of reaching people that we may not be able to reach out to in other ways. And we all know that our students are highly engaged in this space.
Right.
And in fact, when I wanted to learn more about it, I actually pulled in one of our high school students to give me a little tutoring on how to do this thing. But the social media is an impact, and technology in general, not just social media, is changing the way we look at things, changing the way we do things, and frankly, for the very first time, I know we've had this word probably, I suppose, in 25 years in education, oh yes, technology is going to change things, technology is going to change it. It never did, never did. I think it's happening now for the first time that I really feel like technology is making a big impact on educational delivery models.
So we're talking about redefining almost, if you will, the district moving forward. We're talking about closing the achievement gap, teacher effectiveness, parent satisfaction, student satisfaction, and a budget that right now doesn't balance. Do you feel like you're under attack most of the time?
Not under attack, but certainly feel it's a big challenge. I mean, I would not pretend otherwise. I would not pretend that I'm sitting here this evening and have every answer to every single issue that you've just indicated. I don't. However, as I've said, like everything else, the only way I know to get there is just start working at it. I mean, you may not see clearly the way forward when you begin, but you have to start working toward it, and I think that's what we have to do.
You have, for the most part, been very direct since you've been in this position. Whatever the challenge, the issue, it's on the table, and if you don't know the answers, at least from a media perspective, you will say, we don't know, but we'll get back to you. When you look down the road, because clearly, I mean, when we talk about these key areas, there are some huge, not only challenges, but obstacles there. What intimidates you the most?
I think it's not any one of them. It's the coexistence of all of them. Because if all you had to solve was a budget problem, that's a little easier than solving a budget problem while at the same time trying to address academic problems. So, and I don't know if I'd use the word intimidate, but it certainly makes you think more carefully about how to approach it. Because it's not an easy fix. I mean, it's just not an easy fix. And so because of that, I think in a way it's a good thing because it helps you think more carefully about what some of the way forward might be and who can you engage with that might be able to provide additional information or have ideas you have not thought of. And so all in all, I do believe the process can be one that actually helps build community if done in the right way. And so you not only can work toward a solution, but also if you could do it in such a way that you actually build community and consensus and engagement through that, I think that's perfect. Yeah.
I remember when you and I first did this, when you first came into this position, you talked about the ability to almost see the light come on with a student when they saw the value of the education and where it was leading. And in some ways, it seems like the budgetary constraints and all the other things that we're talking about that are obstacles could get in the way of that moment when you see the connection with the student, when you see that light go off. So how do you keep that motivation, not only for yourself, but throughout the district? Because again, it comes back to every school has to have a principal and a teacher and a staff that remembers that feeling of what it's like when that light goes off for that student.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that you can't let it stop you. I mean, you cannot let it stop you. The fact that it's going to be hard, you know, when I talk to students, I talk to them about persisting through tough stuff, and I get the opportunity to try to do that myself sometimes. So I think that is important. But the thing that kind of restores me is when I go into schools, when I see kids, I talk to them. Just this afternoon, before this event, I had opportunity to be interviewed by some of our student reporters, and they asked me some pretty tough questions. And so when we've got high school students that are talking about the budget and those kind of things, I think that's pretty exciting to me. And they're thinking about ways to solve some of the challenges the district is facing. But being in schools, seeing kids face to face, going in classrooms, we have some, you know, you go in some of our classrooms and teachers are like, as I said, it's like watching magic happen. You know, you're sitting there thinking, boy, I wish I could stay all day and watch this. Those are the kind of things that remind you why you were doing it in the first place. And that's the common ground we all have, that we all believe that our kids can be successful, and we want to do everything we can to make it happen for them. So that's the space, no matter whether we agree on which schools should be open, which schools should be closed, what should the curriculum look like, how should teachers be evaluated. We may not agree always on all of that, but this one common place I think we do agree on, and that's the place where we start.
And working from that premise, is it then possible to move past a lot of these other things? Because here's the reality. There are going to be schools that close. There are going to be reorganizations. But if there is that common goal all the time, and maybe that's being too idealistic on my part, but can we focus on that, do you think, as the greater community?
I think we can. I think we can, because as I said, I believe that's the space where we all do agree. And the ways to get there we may not agree on. I mean, clearly, we don't always do that. But my hope is that as a community, we recognize that we got some significant challenges. And I've seen this community rise to a number of challenges since I've been here, in incredible kinds of ways. And I don't think this is any different.
So we're going to talk in just a few minutes, we're going to talk with representatives we're going to talk with a teacher, we're going to talk with someone from the Pittsburgh Promise, we're going to talk with a parent. If you had to put together an ideal collaboration of people that you would work with or consult with on a monthly basis for a report card on how the district was going, does this panel represent who that collaboration would be?
Oh yes, I think it really does. There are others I would add to that. For example, in our district, we are incredibly blessed to have a lot of support from local foundations, and I would add them to that group. We also have support from a national foundation, several national foundations actually. Of course, the biggest financial contribution has been from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I'd add that to the group of people that are supportive and basically cheering on the Pittsburgh Public Schools. So those are some additions I would make. We don't have a board member on this panel tonight, and our board works, as I'm often reminded, without pay, hours and hours and hours on behalf of kids in this district. So I would certainly add them.
And I just want to pick up, because you mentioned the foundation support. You mentioned the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You mentioned our local foundations, which in many ways is a new addition or a significant addition when we talk about providing dollars to a school district for new programs, new ideas. That is now almost the way of the future, isn't it?
Yes, I think that we've been very fortunate in that realm. So as we think about some of the problems we have to remember some of the blessings we have as well, and that certainly has been a part of it. As I said, foundational support has been incredible for us in terms of supporting some of the things we're trying to do on behalf of students that probably aren't as easily paid for through your regular operating budget. So having the ability to do some of those things has been just wonderful. So.
And on that, before we bring out the rest of our panel, I want to just, because one of the other things that has been kicked around is that if we don't do things differently, the money will not be there 3 years from now.
And that's true. We did send out preliminary budget for 2013, which clearly indicates that we have to act. It clearly indicates we have to act. One of the big drivers, we have cost drivers that are going up, and the revenues are staying about the same. So one example is, we're going to be paying almost twice as much in about 3 years for our contribution for retirement system. And healthcare costs, even now still continue to climb for virtually everyone, and we're no different in that space. So when you have costs going up and revenue staying flat, that's not a recipe that works out well for very long.
You likened it earlier today to living on your savings account.
Yeah, it is living on your savings account, and ultimately it runs out. So you have to figure out a way that you can bring your expenditures in line with revenue.
And then the bright spot, what is it that you look forward to the most?
I look forward to getting to the place where we've got a way forward to solve this, and we come to agreement around that. I'm not naive enough to think that everybody's going to be happy and think all of it's perfect. I'm sure there'll be a lot of disagreement along the way, because engagement isn't always easy, and I understand that, but I'm looking forward to getting to be able to focus on the real thing here, which is around achievement of kids. And if we could get to the place where that's, able to consume 100% of our focus, I think that would be an incredible space to be in.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to end this part of our conversation, but we are going to be taking questions a little bit later from our audience as well as the folks who are watching at home. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you, I believe, to take a seat over on the other side on one of the stools, and we're going to have our panelists now come out, and we will have their perspective as well. Let me introduce you now to our esteemed guests who are going to join Dr. Lane and share their perspectives on the state of the district. Let me first introduce Salim Gabriel. He is the executive director of the Pittsburgh Promise Scholarship, as well as a parent. Next we have Pam Little-Poole. She is a parent of 3 Pittsburgh Public School students. They're all boys, I should point out, and she is deeply rooted in education issues. Next we have Kylie Krizan. She is a teacher and learning environment specialist at Pittsburgh Perry High School. She serves on the National Gates Teacher Advisory Council. And last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Pedro Noguera. He is an author and urban sociologist with New York University. And Dr. Noguera has been working with the district for the past year on their equity plan, which you heard Dr. Lane reference earlier. Welcome to all of our panelists. So I'd like to get your perspectives, each of you, and Salim, I'll start with you to just get your reaction, and we'll move right down the panel, if you will, to some of the things that Dr. Lane and I discussed in this first half an hour about where the district is and where we're heading.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Dr. Lane, and thank you, friends, for being here tonight. So about 7 years ago, the board gave a mandate to our superintendent to bring about transformation, to drive pretty hard a reform agenda to improve the quality of education in Pittsburgh Public Schools, not slightly, but to dramatically improve it so that we will indeed have an excellent district delivering excellence in every pocket of the district. And coupled with that came some remarkable change in how we do training of principals and placement of principals, how we hire and recruit and reward and evaluate teachers. And we have a teachers union that came along and signed a significant contract that was fairly progressive in its scope. And then administration that has had its hand on the wheel very faithfully and very rigorously, not wavering, even though there has been storms that have hit that vehicle along the way. What I do know, Lynn, is the following. What I do know is that in the last 5 years, we've sent 3,800 kids to college on a scholarship from the Pittsburgh Promise. Now, we've sent a lot more kids to college than the 3,800, but those 3,800 received a scholarship from the Pittsburgh Promise. And that represents just about 50% of every graduating class for the last 4 years. And if you don't mind, from a distance, just taking a look at some charts and graphs to get your eyes off of the screen and onto me. These bars represent the students who received a scholarship, the Promise Scholars by demographic. So the largest group of students to receive a Promise Scholarship, not surprisingly, is Caucasian females. The second largest is African American females, then Caucasian males, African American males, and then all of the other populations represented in Pittsburgh Public Schools. The non-white students who have received a Promise Scholarship make up about 48% of the Promise Scholars, and then white students about 52% of the Promise Scholars. And then to me, the story that is most thrilling is how they're doing in college. So the early criticism and the early concern was, all right, so you're taking inner city kids from an urban public school system that isn't preparing them well, you're giving them money to go to college, and it's a bad investment. It's throwing good money after bad. They are not going to persist. They're going to drop out at high rates. Well, I am pleased to share with you the findings, that of LRDC, the Learning Research and Development Center at the University of Pittsburgh. They did an evaluation of the performance, the persistence, and the retention of Promise Scholars in post-secondary education. And I am thrilled to tell you, what they did, by the way, is compare our student cohort against a national population as tabulated by ACT, American College Testing. They do a retention report every year, and they break the report down by the performance of students. They compare like colleges. For example, schools that are private, whose highest degree is a PhD, like the CMUs and the Penns of this world. They compare those populations to one another. Schools that are public, that offer a PhD as their highest degree, like the Slippery Rocks and the Clarions of this world, they compare those populations to one another, and so on down the line, all the way to 2-year and then workforce certification and trade and technical programs. The black bar...
I'm going to ask you just to do that a little bit quicker so we can move faster down the panel. Sorry, that's my role here.
Lynn, I liked you a lot better just 2 seconds ago. So the black bar on this chart represents the Promise student cohort, and the gray bar represents the national cohort for ACT scores. And in every single type of institution, the Pittsburgh Promise Scholars are outperforming, outpersisting, being retained at every single type of institution than the national cohort, except in one place, and that's 4-year private schools like the Alleghenies and the Washington and Jeffersons of this world. And in those instances, we're not beating, but we're meeting. We're meeting those retention and persistence rates. So
I'm going to get you to stop right there only because you will get a chance to follow up, and we'll do that in just a minute. But I want to get to Pam Little-Poole.
Okay. I'll apologize in advance because I have scripted my remarks, so I know that the hook is going to come out soon, but I'll speak as quickly as possible.
I'm not the bad guy here.
Good evening. I want to thank Dr. Lane for giving me the opportunity to speak with you this evening about the state of our district. While I wear many hats, I speak to you tonight as a parent of 3 black males children, one of whom is a PPS graduate and 2 of whom are enrolled in Pittsburgh Public Schools. To start, I have to say that I'm deeply concerned about the district's most recent student achievement data, especially the performance of black students. I'm most distressed by the schools that has the highest concentrations of black students and are chronically are chronically low performing. Conversely, I know from A+ Schools' report to the community that there are 9 schools whose achievement gaps are less than 10% in reading, and 7 schools that are less than 10%, their achievement gap is less than 10% in math. What I want to know is what those principals and teachers are doing to create a culture of student achievement. According to the Schlott Foundation, the urgency of now, Black males' graduation rate in Pittsburgh is 44%. That is lower than both the national average as well as in the state. For too many Black male students, the promise unfortunately goes unfulfilled. As the mother of 2 Black male students who are still in Pittsburgh public schools, this is unacceptable. We can do something, we have to do something. I agree with the district. One of the most important factors that contribute to student success are teachers. Teachers are at the heart of the educational experience. To treat an excellent teacher and a poor teacher as interchangeable is just wrong. The district's educational reform efforts around teacher effectiveness, are crucial. I believe this work can increase principals' ability to assess instructional performance more accurately and act on this information in meaningful ways. It will also help to determine where to assign teachers, what professional development to provide, and whom to exit based on classroom effectiveness. Strong teachers, strong principals are the keys to effective schools. In addition to strong schools, we need strong school board leadership. In May of 2013, we may elect as many as 5 new school board directors. That's over 50% of the existing school board. Pittsburgh Public Schools has its own financial cliff that's looming in 2015. If the district remains on its current course, it will be broke within 3 years. Our directors need to help secure the financial stability of our district. We need directors who sees the district reality with clarity, deeply understand its mission of equity and excellence, and think towards the future. My hope is that anyone who runs for school board will be committed to maintaining and improving the work of empowering effective teachers, as well as trying to improve equity within the district. The decisions of our school board will make during the next few years will be unprecedented, and the impact to students will be felt for years to come. While I'm frustrated by the pace of change for our students, especially Black males, there are examples of success. We must learn from them and expand their impact across the district.
Thank you, Pam. There may or may not be an opportunity for me to ask follow-up questions, but we'll see. Kylie, we're going to have your statement next.
Okay. Well, I'd first like to thank Dr. Lane and the district for giving me an opportunity to speak here this evening. I feel very honored to be able to be a part of this. After listening to Dr. Lane's remarks on the state of the district, a few things for me came to mind. We're doing a lot of things right in this district right now. As a teacher, I've had the opportunity to be a part of our fairly recent evaluation system, RISE. With having a new way to be evaluated as a teacher, I feel very empowered and encouraged because I feel like it is no longer just the opportunity to be given a satisfactory rating or an unsatisfactory rating when you've never even been seen before by leadership. We now have a system in place that allows teachers to actually take feedback, positive feedback and helpful feedback, and turn around and turn that into an implementation process where we're actually being able to grow as teachers. Like I said, before it was you might be lucky if you got feedback, if you received feedback from an administrator. That is not the process anymore. And as a teacher, I feel very encouraged that I have the opportunity to take feedback from an administrator and be able to have support to help me implement that. As a member of the Gates Teacher Advisory Council, I have a national perspective on our RISE system and on our multiple measure system. We are truly, and I can say this with 100% certainty, leading the way in many, many ways in this district. I feel so proud to be a part of this district whenever I go and I hear from different teachers from across the country on what they're doing. They're looking towards Pittsburgh to figure out what their next steps are going to be. We have our tripod survey, as Dr. Lane mentioned earlier, which is an amazing resource for us. We're giving students the opportunity to give feedback on how they are being taught and what's happening in their classrooms. That's a critical part of us moving forward and the progress for us in this district. Not only do our students have a voice right now, but I feel like teachers are now given a voice as far as what we're doing to move forward. I feel like district administration is giving teachers an opportunity to share their perspectives, and they're deeming our contributions worthy, and they're listening to what we have to say. And I think that those types of things are the things that are going to continue to move Pittsburgh Public forward. And I believe that if we continue doing all of the things that Dr. Lane was talking about earlier, that we will truly become a district of first choice again. There's no doubt in my mind. And we have to work together and collaboratively with the PFT and central administration and teachers, building leadership across the board, parents, community. If we continue to work, we're going to get there. And I just feel completely secure in saying that.
Thank you so much. Dr. Noguera.
So I'm the visitor outsider to Pittsburgh, although I feel like I've come here so much now that I'm becoming more and more of a resident. And so the analogy I would make to where the Pittsburgh public schools are now is one that might be familiar to many of you here. I'd say it's a lot like where the Steelers are right now. Okay. Right. That is, there's potential, but there are a lot of questions. Right? Right. You just lost your quarterback. Right? And you got this Leftwich in there. We don't know. Can he hold it? Can he hold it down until you get to the playoffs? Right? Yes, you can. You got a shaky running game. Right? Now, the analogy is this. The potential is here. You've heard it described. When I came, I was impressed by the ability of people in leadership to tell me, explain to me what it was they were doing, what the strategy was. And all of it struck me as cutting edge. That is what the research says we should be doing to move a system forward. However, I'm still left with questions. Because the more I get to know the system, the more I get to visit the schools, the more I get to see people work, I see gaps. Not just gaps in achievement, I see gaps between what people say and what's actually happening. Right? So I think it's great to focus on teacher effectiveness. But here's my question. Have we actually shown teachers this is what excellent teaching looks like? Right? That is, it's not good enough to evaluate. We have to actually have classrooms say, go to that classroom and you're going to see excellent teaching going on in your school. Students engaged, working at a high level. Because if you can't show it to them, chances are they won't be able to do it. Right? Another question, leadership. Will the leadership in this district be able to work together, the board and the superintendent? Will you be on the same page? You've got major threats, financial challenges. You've got loss of enrollment, charter schools rising up. If the leadership is not on the same page, is not aligned, what happens? Your ability to respond is weak, and you continue to decline. So I see big questions like these facing the district, and I also see enormous potential. So the real question, as is true for the Steelers, is will you rise to the occasion? And, you know, I'm struck by the fact that I see people working very hard. Right? I don't see any lazy people in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. What I don't necessarily see as much of is people working together. Right? And as we know, again, using the analogy of the Steelers, if everybody's working hard but they're not working together, they don't get the goals accomplished. Great teams are greater than the sum of their parts. Great schools are greater than the sum of their parts. Right? They're not pointing fingers, they're working together. And I think if we could achieve that kind of spirit here in Pittsburgh, we could end up with a system that could not just be successful for the students here, it could be a model for the nation.
And Dr. Lane, let me get you, and yeah, please acknowledge that. Let me get you to respond to that last comment, and for two reasons. Number one, because when he threw out the Steeler analogy, I heard people in the audience say, when he said, can the Steelers still pull it together? I heard people in the audience say yes. We didn't hear people say yes when we were talking about, are we hopeful about the future of the district?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right. Because, but that does then speak to the issue of this concept of working together.
My response to the working together piece would be that we absolutely need to work together. Now, there are times and there are occasions where we have, and I think that we can all probably think of some examples of that. One of the things that Salim spoke about was our agreement with our teachers. You know, when I first came to Pittsburgh, we were like this far from a teacher strike. And I, first of all, didn't know that teachers could go on strike in Pennsylvania, and that was a shock first, but we were that close. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Worked through, solved the problems, moved on, and signed basically a landmark collective bargaining agreement with teachers. So that's an example of working together through something that was really tough. When we had to, over a 6-week period, put together a plan for empowering effective teachers, that took incredible working together between the board, the superintendent, I wasn't superintendent then, and the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers. We worked together. We did. We had board member presented, Mr. Sumter presented at that meeting, and so did John Tarka, president of the Teachers Union, and so did the superintendent. So the fact of the matter is, when we get pressed, we do it. When we get pressed, we can pull it together.
I'm literally just moving this podium back and forth. But I need you to look more forward, and then I won't block their view. How's that for a compromise? I'd like to, if I could, get the two of you then to interact, because Pam and Salim, as I listened to Salim on the surface, when you listen to the Pittsburgh Promise numbers, they are impressive. And it is a wonderful thing. Oh my goodness, we only have a couple minutes to do this, so I'll be quick. It's wonderful when we listen to all, 10. Oh, we got plenty of time. We have, when you listen to the numbers of the students that have been able to take advantage of the Pittsburgh Promise, that's an amazing thing. And that is certainly worthy of applause, I would think, for the entire district to see those kind of numbers. Yet at the same time, when we look at if so few, and I believe, Pam, you used the number of 44% of our African-American males are graduating. That's also disheartening. So again, that working together component needs to come into play, because if our African-American males aren't graduating, they're not in line for the promised money.
Is there a question? Sorry.
So how do we then engage more of the community? Because we talked earlier about community collaboratives with community and parents. How do we begin to pull all those factions together to change those numbers, to change that dynamic? And I'm going to pull you in on that too.
And I would fully agree with you that the numbers I cited are impressive. They're not impressive enough. They are impressive for the early start of the work of the promise, but they The numbers, need to be a whole lot better, and we as a city need to do a whole lot better. And until somebody asked me recently, how do we know when Pittsburgh has become the greatest place on earth to be a child? And my answer is Pittsburgh will not be the greatest place on earth to be a child until Homewood is the greatest place on earth to be a child. And I use Homewood only as an example. Until the most vulnerable among us fare well, we're not all faring well. So we have plenty of things to celebrate. We absolutely have plenty of things to celebrate, and we must celebrate them. We absolutely have to celebrate them, and our kids are doing stellar work, and they need to be applauded for it. But really, even if our graduation rates were 85%, how many of us parents would be content having our kid be in that 15%?
In that 15%, absolutely. Dr. Nogueira, let me get your reaction to that as well, because, and this is not a problem that's unique to the Pittsburgh public school system. It's a problem across the country in terms of engaging our African-American males in particular.
Well, you raised, I think, an important part of the whole equation, which is parents. You know, that if parents have to play a role in supporting their own children. And I think one of the challenges for the district is how do we engage parents as partners in the educational process? All the research shows that children who are most likely to succeed have strong parental support. And the real question is, can we build partnerships based on trust between schools and parents so that together we can get a greater number of these kids to achieve? You have this enormous opportunity with the Pittsburgh Promise. But for many children, that's so far off. It does not seem concrete enough. And so really the time, you don't plan for college in 12th grade. You begin planning for college way back in elementary school and sowing those seeds. And so if you see those numbers that kids are not reading at grade level in 3rd and 4th grade, you know that come high school, they're not going to be ready for the Promise. It's too much ground to make up. So we really have to lay the strong foundation, both in school and at home, to produce the kind of results that we're hoping for here.
And so then, Kylie, that's a perfect segue to you, because we can talk about teacher effectiveness, but give me some feedback, some sense of how teachers, and I paint this with a broad brush, I realize, but how do teachers feel in general about the relationships with parents? Because I know that I hear from some teachers a level of frustration about not having that collaborative, yet in the same breath, we've got Pam sitting here that I'm just going to go out on a limb. She's a very involved parent.
Yes, I think that I think that sometimes as teachers, our frustration level does go up a little bit whenever we can't communicate as much as we would like with parents. For many reasons, for many different reasons on many levels. I know that at least for myself and my school, along with Dr. Nogueira's group, we're working on figuring out ways that we can engage the community and engage the parents so we can further our building. And we know that the only way to do that is if we have the community and parental support. There's no other way to do it. We have to have that collaboration. Otherwise, we're not going to be successful for our students.
And I'm guessing that sometimes you probably would like to see surveys on parent effectiveness, just like they're able to do teacher effectiveness. So I'm just guessing. You don't have to answer that. Pam, let me ask you then, because now you pointed out those statistics in particular, and obviously because you have 3 sons, that's a subject that is near and dear to your heart. You also, in your presentation, talked a lot about the achievement gap. Now, as what I assume to be an involved parent, you stay on your 3 boys and make sure that they are on point and on target. What if you had to, if there was one thing that you wanted to stay on the district about, what would that be?
It's like the question, if you had $1 million, I'm trying to figure it.
That one's probably easier to answer than $1 million.
is I would push for a sense of urgency, and not to say that, Dr. Lane, that doesn't exist right now, but I feel like the time for this was yesterday. I have the privilege of working with so many different students as well as my own students, and I feel like we're just losing kids. We're hemorrhaging kids. So if anything that I can impart, it would just be urgency, urgency, urgency.
And Dr. Lane, let me come back to you because, and I am hopeful at this point we've been collecting some questions from the audience. We are taking questions as well from folks who want to engage with us via Twitter. And we're going to teach Dr. Lane more about Twitter tonight as the evening wears on. But before we open it up to questions, now you've heard from our panelists. How would you kind of take all of that and wrap up this part of the discussion?
Yeah, I think that as we think, especially since our focus has been on the achievement gap, and especially the success or lack of same of African American male students in the district, that it all has to be in place. I know we heard about parent engagement. We absolutely need the support of our parents, but I have to say that whether we get that or not, we still have a responsibility to educate children. Not every parent in this city is going to be able to do what we need from them. They can't. And I've said before, there are parents in this city that are dealing with home circumstances that if I had to do that, I don't know how successful I would be. They're strong, they're resilient, but they can't do it all. So I think we're going to have to, there's never going to be a day where every parent is going to be able to do everything we'd love for them to be able to do. They just can't do it. So that said, to me, there's a quote I've always loved, that the child's individual education should not depend on the efficacy of their mother. And so we are going to have some children that aren't going to have that support. How are we going to be a safety net for them?
All right.
That's the question.
We are now going to open it up to questions from the audience. The only thing I need is those questions from the audience. And hopefully you've been sending some of your questions in from Twitter as well. Oh, yeah, you have been sending some of your questions in from Twitter. Dr. Lane, I'm going to give you this first question just to give me a chance to go through a couple of these. This is a Twitter question, and the question is, when will achievement be more than just results or standardized tests?
Yeah, I think achievement is more than just the score on the PSSA, because one of the things we know for sure that even kids that can do well, let's say achieve in a proficient or an advanced level, also are going to need other skills and capabilities in order to be successful in post-secondary. And I know that some recent information is around some schools, charter schools actually, were very successful in educating African-American males, but then these young men were not successful at college. And they were trying to figure out why not. Well, they found out that there are other qualities kids have to have developed as well. And persistence is one of them, and that's why I bring that one to the fore again, that the ability to stick to it when the going gets tough. They need grit, they need curiosity. It's the habits, it's the, as I said, the being there every day, the doing the homework. And I know some young people go to college and all of a sudden nobody's there telling you, go to class. And all of a sudden, you know, I went to college. We had students who were not in class and weren't ready to accept that responsibility of getting themselves there. The professors at college don't care if you don't show up. They're not going to call you and complain about your attendance. And so those are the kind of things that our students have to have developed as well, especially if they're first generation college, because they don't necessarily have somebody in their family who's being able to tell them these are some of the pitfalls of being there. So it's both those social behaviors as well as the academic behaviors that we have to develop in our students.
Very good, thank you. I'm trying to listen to you and go through these as well. This is another Twitter question, and I'd like to get a couple of you to respond as well, and Dr. Lane. I will just move down the row if you can, because this question is there any evidence that the Pittsburgh Promise has led to any increased performance by most at-risk students?
Sure. In fact, over the last 4 years, the fastest growing, now again, we started with fairly low numbers, but the fastest growing population as a percentage of the whole in terms of Promise scholars is the African American male. And the Promise, along with a number of neighborhood organizations and volunteers, we have been spending time in every one of our high schools, and the principals have helped us identify African American males who are within striking distance of making Promise eligibility in their senior year, but where some intervention is necessary. And these community organizations, along with some other volunteers, are spending an hour or 2 hours a week, once or twice a week during the lunch hour in the schools, doing whatever is necessary to do whatever heavy lifting is required to help kind of push that population of young men over the end. And we're seeing demonstrable growth in that population of young men.
And Dr. Noguera, let me just throw that out to you, because certainly having done so much research, is when you have significantly at-risk students, does the dangle of money like the Pittsburgh Promise work?
Well, I think I alluded to this earlier. There have been other projects like this around the country. For example, there was something called the I Have a Dream Project, where the philanthropist chose a group of kindergarten children and said, I will make sure all of these children have full scholarships by the end of their senior year if they are able to continue to perform well throughout. And sadly, very few did. And the reason why is because each step along the way, you have to provide support to children, right? Having the carrot at the end of that experience is, especially for children who come from families where no one's gone to college, is very remote, right? And so you've got to make sure that every step along the way, you are building a culture of learning, which I heard you use that term before, that you are intervening early and effectively. And what I heard implied in the last question is very important. We can't be so narrowly focused on achievement that we're not cultivating a love of learning. Right? Right. And they're not the same. Right? That is that sometimes we get so preoccupied by achievement as measured by test scores that we're not cultivating a love of writing and reading, of children who become real problem solvers, who on their own time continue to learn. And that, to me, we really need to be focused much more on motivation, engagement, because once those ingredients are there, then you will see students who will thrive in school and who will become Promise ready at the end. But we got to make sure we're doing that work throughout, not just in the last couple of years.
There's that light coming on. Dr. Lane, let me ask you this, because there are several questions here about changes in curriculum. Mm-hmm. And apparently there is a concern about continual changes in curriculum. Why does it have to happen so often? Mm-hmm. And is it absolutely necessary to change it as much as it is changed?
Okay. Well, to the asker of those questions, I guess the bad news is we're getting ready to change again. And part of the reason for that is the Common Core. I'm sure that many in this room, and probably those watching as well, have heard about the adoption of Common Core standards. Pennsylvania is one of the states that has adopted Common Core standards, and that's going to create, that triggers a change in how we teach some things and what we teach in some ways, or even when we teach it. One of the things that, as we've in our district have gone through the process of becoming aligned to Common Core and having kids being taught the things at the particular grade levels they're supposed to be according to Common Core, is that some things are like moving down grades. Things that we may have taught in 7th grade are now going to be taught in 6th grade, that kind of thing. So that's a change. But if done correctly, we believe it is for the better. It gets to the kind of things Dr. Noguera was talking about getting to the love of learning. It is fascinating to sit through a lesson taught that way. And I had the opportunity to have that experience, and I've talked to a number of people about that. It was interesting, it was engaging, and furthermore, unlike what curriculum has often been, there's a whole lot to teach, and maybe even you've got 180 days of school and you might have 185 days worth of curriculum to teach, and you can't get through it all. Common Core was an effort to get to things, fewer units, but go deeper. And this is reaching the goals that Dr. Nguero set around getting kids engaged and getting them to be problem solvers. Being able to do close reading of text so they can read a text and pull out the evidence for not just this is my opinion, but here's the evidence that says that this is an accurate assumption or an accurate belief. So the bad news is, yes, there are going to be some more changes. The good news is, I think once we get there, we should be there for a while.
We have, I just want to point out, we have a number of Twitter questions, so we are going to have to get you up to speed on this. And one of these is actually coming from a student via Twitter, and that is, how can you help better prepare students for tests like the SATs and the ACTs, which might speak somewhat to the curriculum question you just addressed?
I believe that it's all about learning, because SAT and ACT are not tests that you can cram for, right? You have to have had broad and important experiences all the way along, have to develop literacy to a high level, because you're going to have to be able to read things you've not read before when you take that test and figure out exactly what the writer's meaning was. That business of citing evidence in text and understanding different elements of literature is important. So having that strong engagement in curriculum all along the way is what really prepares you. And I would encourage a student getting ready for either of those tests, read and read a lot, and also a lot of reading of nonfiction, which is another Common Core change that we're going to be seeing, a lot more reading of nonfiction texts, even for kids that are very young, because typically in primary grades, most of our children are reading like storybooks, and we're going to be more and more having them read things that are actual factual information.
Is it possible, and I'm going to ask you to do this in 30 seconds, this is going to be a tough one, because we did have a couple of budget questions. Is it possible to balance the budget without concessions and or tax increases? That's a Twitter question, and I just want to add on to that because they talked about so many other things, and to do some of the things the panelists have talked about without any more money.
I think that we're going to have to look at every possible means available to us. I think we will over time in terms of looking at budgeting challenges. So, and it could be that we look at something and say, no, we reject that. You know, we don't have support for that. We're not going to do it. But I do believe that we have to talk about everything. We have to talk about everything.
Lastly, I guess there's a couple of students that want to know if they can get out of school early on Tuesday for the Justin Bieber concert. That was a Twitter question, too.
Well, please let them know if Justin brings along a 24-inch snowfall. That's possible.
Okay. Question answered. Unfortunately, I have more questions than we have time, but please thank our panel for all of their perspectives that they brought to this discussion tonight. And Dr. Lane, since this is your show, we're going to let you do the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, I feel like I really didn't get to have the chance to say to you, good evening, everyone. Yeah, so thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it, and we've been obviously preparing for this for a little while, and hard to believe we're actually here tonight. Thanksgiving's almost upon us, and it occurs to me that despite our challenges, we do have a lot to be thankful for in this district and in this city. I thank you all for joining us tonight, whether you're here or viewing us from home and sending in Twitter questions. And Lynn, thank you. Great job. Didn't you do a great job? I want to thank our student ushers. Lynn commented on how wonderful they were, and so did some of our other staff comment on how wonderful they were. I don't know where they all are now, but if you're here, can you like wave or something? Yeah. And Joelle, great job. Great job. Thank you for introducing us. And Renee, our vocalist, where's my Star Spangled Banner singer? Yeah, where are you? Okay. Now, Miss Hill was singing the Star Spangled Banner at the football championship game. And I was a little late to the game, so I missed it. And so I thought, oh, I can have her sing tonight, and I get to hear it. So thank you. Perry ROTC unit, I think they've probably left by now, but they always add a special element to any event, and I'm so glad they were here tonight. Our stage crew, the stage crew is phenomenal. These are mainly Kappa students, so thank you so much. The Kappa Ensemble. The Kappa Ensemble, you're going to hear from them soon. I also want to thank the staff and our principals that are here tonight. Principals that are here, can you wave? Thank you. Yeah, we have a fabulous principal corps in this district. These are, as I said, I've never worked with harder working people. I never have worked with harder working people. People who care about their kids, who are out there every day doing the very things we're talking about for children, working to make sure that their school is a school where kids are achieving at high levels. Thank our experts tonight for joining us. We sure appreciate your involvement and your perspective. So thank you so much. Yeah, I also have to thank my family members that are here tonight. My dad's here. And my husband's here, so. And board members, thank you. Board members spend a lot of time in meetings, so I know this could have been a night you were home with your families, and I appreciate the fact that you're here. The board, students, parents, and principals, and teachers who are the Pittsburgh Public Schools, thank you so much. We have some other folks we want to congratulate tonight. We have new ways of looking at both individual and school progress, but this is a way we've had for a while, adequate yearly progress. You already know that the district and most of our schools did not make what is called adequate yearly progress this year. And after spending September, October, and most of November talking about that disappointment and those data, I was reminded by a community member that, you know what, you didn't even recognize the ones who did make adequate yearly progress. So I'd like to rectify that tonight. So we're going to acknowledge their achievement, and I'm going to call out the principals' names for these schools. So principals, as I call your name, would you please come up? Miss Molly O'Malley Argueta, Pittsburgh Allegheny. She here tonight? Dr. Monica Lamar, Pittsburgh Dilworth. Mr. Kevin McGuire, Pittsburgh Arlington. Mr. Eric Rosenthal is not here tonight, but I think that Mr. Littlehale was going to be here, but maybe he didn't make it either. I don't see him there because Mr. Rosenthal wasn't going to be able to be here. Miss Jackie Hale, Pittsburgh Obama, and she's here for Wayne Walders, the principal. Jackie is the director at Pittsburgh Obama. Miss Melissa Perlman, right here at Pittsburgh Kappa. Dr. Robert Shearer, Pittsburgh Science and Technology Academy. Okay. And I want to shake each of your hands. Can you join us in a round of, oh, here's Mr. Littlehale. Thank you. Yeah, a round of applause for these schools and principals. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, congratulations, Dr. Shearer. Thank you for doing this. Okay, thank you all so much. We'll let you can go back. Okay. I'm getting the hook myself. Okay. I hope you found tonight beneficial. We're on a journey together to help our children achieve so that they all can earn this Pittsburgh Promise Scholarship. We realize there aren't any shortcuts on our road to success, and sometimes it may seem further than we thought to get there. We know it's hard. The real question is, are we on the right path, and are we getting closer? And we believe the answer to that is yes. We know to meet our goals and fulfill our promise to students, we too must continue to dream big and work hard so they can fulfill their potential and walk 2 stages, high school and college or trade school. We know that we have 2 extraordinary initiatives that give our students an edge. One of those is our Empowering Effective Teaching project, because we know for a fact to close the gaps we talked about, it's going to take some powerful teaching. And also the Pittsburgh Promise Scholarship. This is one of the most extensive programs of its kind. So success in the Promise is success at the end of the journey. That's crossing that 2nd stage. We have to keep an eye on our finances and invest wisely and re-envision and reshape our district. We want to work with you, and there are many ways you can be engaged. You can mentor, you can tutor, you can be an early grade reader. You can participate in your school's community council. You'll see some of those on the screen, I'm sure. Last Thursday morning, there was a short essay in the Post-Gazette about a former Pittsburgher who came home from Kentucky for a tragic reason. He is in the Hillman Cancer Center fighting a fast-moving and potentially fatal abdominal cancer. He spoke about his faith in the future and said this about why he came here to fight the disease. This is Pittsburgh, and success is expected. If he can face down his daunting road ahead with hope and commitment, so can we. We must work together with purpose to adjust from our familiar territory to the new frontier. We need all of you to engage with us as we move forward. We will prove that a public school district can be reformed from within in collaboration with all of you. Why? Because this is Pittsburgh, and success is expected. Thank you very much. Okay. Ready for the choral ensemble? Okay. Now, to close our evening tonight, please join me in welcoming our choral ensemble from Pittsburgh Capper Concert Choir, singing I Believe I Can Fly.
I used to think that I could not go on, and life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Oh. See, I was on the verge of breaking down. Sometimes the silence can seem so loud. There are miracles in life I must achieve. But first I know it starts inside of me. If I can see it, then I can be it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.
'Cause I believe in me. Oh,
if I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.
I believe I can fly.
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 I can fly.
Okay.
A special thanks to the Kappa Choral Ensemble. Thank you all for coming. I hope you got as much out of tonight as I did. There were many questions that had been asked more than once. I want to just point out that there will be a section on the Pittsburgh Public Schools website, and it will say frequently asked questions. So if you're on the State of the District, excuse me, that's the State of the District website. So if your question was asked, but you didn't get an answer tonight, check on that website. In about a week, you should see the answer there. Thank you for coming, and have a safe drive home.